Listen, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let the punishment fit the crime. You're searching for a punishment that fits this crime. Have you heard of any crime more horrendous than what you've heard when you came into this courtroom? Let the punishment fit this crime. When each of you were selected as jurors, you sat on the witness stand. You were questioned, can you give life? All of you said yes, depending on those facts. You were asked, can you give death? Each and every one of you said yes, under the right circumstances. The punishment has to fit the crime. The defense asked you, when you were jurors, up there, prospective jurors, before you were sworn in, would you reserve death for the worst of the worst? Yes. All of you knew that's the big penalty. My question is, isn't he the worst of the worst? Tim Jones, a man who brutally murdered his 5 children. You're going to have those two options, life and death. The judge is going to tell you the process you got to go through before you can give either sentence. The law is going to be a little different this time. You've heard about statutory aggravating circumstances that I got to prove. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. There's only 2 that we're presenting. We have to prove 1. And I'm going to tell you, we already have. It's a unique case. By the time you reached a verdict of murder, for those 5 kids you had already established, we had proven these 2 aggravating circumstances. First, 2 or more persons were murdered by the defendant by one act, pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct. That fits. You can be asked that for every child. And yes, each one of them falls into that category beyond any reasonable doubt. And the second one's even easier. The murder of a child 11 years of age or under. The oldest child in this case was 8 years old, Mira. We've proven it. You have their birth certificates, you have their death certificates. You have their ages, and you know what we put in? It sounds really strange. We put your verdict form. The indictments showing what you've done. We have proven it. We proved it to you. So what does it mean? You've got 2 aggravating circumstances. We only had to prove 1. Is death automatic? No. Judge told you that's not how it works. And that's good. Because he's going to tell you there's other things you need to listen for, and you already told us. Mitigating circumstances. Some are going to be statutory. He'll read off. Some are non-statutory, and he's going to explain that, things that aren't in a code book. You can consider, and there's no burden of proof. There's no beyond a reasonable doubt. He will even tell you you can have mercy and give life for no reason at all, without stating a reason. You have that power if you think that fits this case. And say you find a mitigating circumstance. Does that mean life is automatic? No. You can find both aggravating and mitigating circumstances and give death. The law allows that. You can find both and give death. He's going to tell you there's other evidence. We generally call it character evidence. Evidence about that man over there, what kind of person he is. Bad stuff. That doesn't replace or be used for aggravating circumstances, but you get that. You've already found aggravating circumstances. It's going to be character evidence. What kind of man is Tim Jones Jr.? You got a good glimpse in the first phase, but you heard a lot the last few days. What kind of human being he is what kind of person he is. You also got to get a glimpse of who those little children were. You had seen their faces, you had heard their names, but you got to know a little bit about them. That's victim impact evidence. So who is Tim Jones Jr.? Who is this man? Well, you know right out of the gate, as you sit here, he is a murderer. He murdered his 5 kids. He is a mass murderer. He committed the most heinous crime a human being could commit. He not only took a life, he took the life of a child, 5 children who had trusted him. They called him Daddy. Is there any crime worse than that? He betrayed their trust. He chose himself over them, and they paid with their lives. That is who he is. And you heard all about his life story. Growing up as a child, such a hard home, bad home. There's violence, there's drugs, there's cursing, there's swearing. And you know what? It wasn't ideal. But you hear from his family, you know what they did? They insulated him. They recognized he was special. He's bright. He had a gift that no one else in that family had. They found he had something that doesn't come along often. He had brilliance. He was a bright child, a gifted child, a child that could do anything he wants to do. They protected him. Dad, who loves him, there's no question Tim Sr. loves his son. And whatever faults you see in him, he loves his son. He protected him. He spoiled him. Did you hear his grandmother? Yeah, Tim Jones is a selfish man. That's her grandbaby on trial for his life, but she knew that's the truth. He's selfish. Tim Jones Jr. grew up knowing that he can manipulate his family. He grew up knowing that if he got mad and walked away, they'd come to him. That's who he is. He grew up knowing that. And maybe you can say, well, he had such a hard life. But folks, he had the opportunity. He had the gifts to be something so much more. His life is all about choice. It wasn't predetermined. He chose to be what he is. He chose to be a murderer. Everything about him is me, me, me. As a kid, his dad felt the heartbreak of a marriage that fell apart. Who doesn't feel that when your marriage falls apart? And he sought a new wife, Carolyn. Timmy punished his dad. Never accepted Carolyn. Said she rejected him. We know he rejected her and he was jealous. He wanted his dad all to myself. It's about me. I will not be shared. I want 100% of whatever you have. I demand it. Give it to me. And he grew up into a man, and he overcame so much. He got a college degree, the first and maybe the only one in that family. And not only that, summa cum laude, he was top of the top at Mississippi State University in computer engineering. He's brilliant. And he did it while married, while with kids. Who can do that? That man can. Folks, he's thrown it all away. His selfishness, his greed, his demand to be the center of it all has eaten him up. He punishes those that reject him, and it got worse as he got older. That Christmas Eve in 2012, when he takes his kids to see a family that wanted to see those kids, He comes with an attitude. Yeah, he's going through a divorce. And folks, maybe there is going to be a confrontation. Maybe he is going through things, but his reaction is classic Tim Jr. When the dad, the head of that house, steps in and says, son, this is enough. Tim Sr. was doing what any man of the house should do. Stop this. That's all it was. Stop it. And Junior, you're rejecting me. You're choosing Jackie over me. A grown man acting like, you heard Daddy say he acts like a baby. When he's 26, he was going on 16. He's a baby. He's a brat. And he packed his kids up on Christmas Eve. He deprived not only his family, but his children of family love on Christmas Eve. And he sat in the car with them and drove all the way to Mississippi to South Carolina. How selfish is that? But he's making a statement, and he never reached out to his dad. 1 year and 8 months go by in the lives of the children in his life. He never once says, Dad, I'm sorry. And yeah, his dad's stubborn too. But folks, no one compares to Tim Jr. And how does this go? He marries Amber. He makes choices for her. They have multiple kids. He expects her to take care of all of them. He works. All right. But it gets worse. That stillborn child, that devastated her. And listen, you can think of Amber whatever you want. She never had anything. She finds a man that's brilliant, that shows some affection to her. But you can think whatever. This isn't about her. But what he did, and her pain that any woman would go through, bearing a dead child. How do you get over that? And his cure was get her pregnant again. Let's do it again. That one didn't take, we'll have another. And then opportunity comes. Intel, an incredible job. The job that he ended up making over $80,000 on. No one in that family had ever done that. And Tim Sr., I bet, was the most proud man in the world, what his son had accomplished. Opportunity to rise above, to be different, to get out of all the past that had haunted that family. It's there. And Amber says, wow, we have a chance. We, a family, have a chance. He doesn't consult her dream. He doesn't care about her dream. In his world, it's me. And he chooses an old mobile home. His dad said it looked like something off the set of Green Acres. Couldn't even fix the bathroom. It took about a week to fix the bathroom. And Amber, without a driver's license, without education, without a car, supposed to sit in that house with a newborn and other kids. Oh, and by the way, Tim Jr. decided we're going to have a bunch of animals and you take care of those too, Amber. No one will ever excuse her choice to leave or how she left. But can anybody really question why? Tim Jr. was so offended at her choice. Left for the kid next door, he says. But what does he do? He pulls in a girl who just turned 17, barely out of 16, with the child, come into my family, live with me, have relations with me like a wife, in the presence of my kids in my home. This is a man who says, I am Mr. Christian. Here's how life really worked. You heard his pastor in the last phase say, he used scripture for control, and he sure did. The Bibles were bricks. He would beat them over the head with those kids. You will do right. You shall have no other love for anyone other than me, except him. I will not be shared with anyone. I will have your full devotion, or you shall feel my wrath. The word according to Tim. And when that meeting came, it ended with, "Here endeth the lesson." That's the word according to Tim. And you've seen it. You've seen it. It culminates in what happens August 2014. But folks, go all the way back, that episode in May with Natan. You're probably all wondering, what is it about that little boy, that little tiny child, that made him such a target? Amber, when the defense put her on the stand, Amber told you. He's a mama's boy. This little boy had enough love for both parents. What child doesn't? Children don't think in terms of absolute, I gotta love you and no one else. And so when he would see his mom in a parking lot, he ran to her with reckless abandon, oblivious to cars. It's mommy, mommy. And is that bad? It is to Tim Jr. You're choosing her over me. And he saw it in Mira too. She wanted to go live with her mom. Do you wonder why? It's not hatred on the part of these kids. They're yearning for love, and they're not getting it. And as this man's life is spiraling out of control, look, he knows where to get help. He's done it before. He chooses not to get help. He chooses not to have medication that can assist him. He chooses to self-medicate. He embraces spice. And no one had better warning than this man. He knows every chemical in that substance. He knows what it does to your body. No one can say they ever took that drug and had a better clear-headed idea of what it does to you. But he also had this. His young brother, whose heart is absolutely torn apart. Y'all heard him. It was painful. He said, when my big brother told me he was using spice, I said, no, don't go down that road. I've been there. He had his own addiction to spice, his own hell with that drug. He knew what it did. Tim Jr. knows better. No one tells him what to do. He embraced that drug. He brought it into the house. He married spice. And every child in that house felt it. His son, Natan, was playing with Eli and apparently messed up a railroad track or something. What was the biblical correction this man gave his son? He took that hand, grabbed that child by the neck, lifted him off the ground, and shoved him against the wall. Is this a case for mercy? Is this life? Then he drops him down. Hard enough. You see the bruises on this child's arms, and even with bad photos, bruises on the face. Those teachers, those incredible teachers who are here today, saw those bruises and were mortified. They did exactly, Amy Shearer did exactly what she had to do. What did she say? Sometimes I love them a little too much. Jonathan Stone, who was the real father figure for this little boy? It sure wasn't the man sitting at this table over here. I tell you what, the Blood family, I'm not going to question whether they love or not. I'm really not when it comes to these kids. But we know this, they weren't involved in the lives of those children for a year and 8 months. Those teachers were. Every day, those kids came into their classroom. They tended to them. They saw their gifts, how unique they were. They loved them. Any parent sending kids to that school, to these teachers, should feel confident, my kids are safe. But shouldn't a child be safe at home too? He cuts off all communication with those teachers. Won't sign homework, won't return calls, and he singles out Natan, the middle child. He's not one of the older ones with extra responsibility because daddy trusts him. He's not the babies that get away with everything. He's in the middle, and he's got a bullseye now. From May to August, his life was hell. His dad punished him. You hear Mr. Stone say, this child will come to school. And I've been down to pick him up one day, and this 5-year-old child, I was like, my God, my 2-year-old baby weighs more than this child. We know there's food in the home. When DSS went in that home, that was one thing there was. This man used it for punishment. And what would Natan bring to school? A piece of bread? Some grapes? That's abuse. Who is that man? He is the worst of the worst. And Natan was feeling the full brunt of it. Tim Jr. punished his dad. He punished Amber. He punished Natan. And everyone was on notice. Don't cross me. August 28th, 2014. Y'all have heard about that. But now it makes more sense. Natan, the inquisitive child, interested in electronics, do you think he's got some of his father's curiosity? Probably hears about electricity with computers, circuit boards, how things work. It's a teachable moment, but not for that man. It's a criminal investigation, interrogation. He brutally makes this child do these exercises that Dad couldn't do. Dad washed out. He wanted to be in the Navy SEALs, please. He couldn't make it through basic training. He couldn't even pass screening to get in. But, oh, my kids, I expect more of them. It's okay if 5 fail. And Natan paid heavily. And what happens? Amber calls. She calls. Thank God I know Natan must be thinking, his mom. His mom. And he has not told his dad a thing. And why should he? He's going to get punished either way. That's how it works with Tim Jr. You're either lying to me or you did it, and now you're going to pay. Mama gets on the phone. And first words out of his mouth, Mommy, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to do it. That's his little cry for help. Mommy, help me, save me. And she tries to step in, trying to call Tim Jr. down, calm him down. She hears him in the background. Son, you could have not killed me. You could have killed yourself. She tries to calm him down. You've heard her voice messages. She's calm. She knows how to talk to this man when he gets riled up. He was hearing nothing because when he heard his little boy confess to his mother, it's all over. And when she tried to intervene, he said, "You always taken up for the kids." And when she tried to speak again, he said, "Shut the F up," and killed that call. Natan didn't die of overexertion, folks. He met white-hot rage at that point. We'll never know the cause, but it wasn't punishment at that point. It was absolute rage. And Mira, he had also singled her out. He knew she wanted to go live with her mom. What a sin. And that night, when he brutally murders his children, when he goes through and brutally murders every child, and you've heard the story. You've heard the story. He kills Natan, and what's his first thought? My life is over. Tim, you're effed. He consciously decides not to call 911. He downloads a movie clip while his son is dead and watches a gang rape scene in prison because he knows that's my lot. What's he do with Mira? He takes her to go get cigarettes. He's got to think. I got to think. I got to think. What am I doing? I got a dead child. My life's over. Where is this going? Why did he take Mira? because that little girl would have gone for hell. Eli, scared to death, but Daddy, I'm on your side. He leaves that little 7-year-old with his dead brother and 2 little infants. What kind of man is that? What kind of man is that? Is he the worst of the worst, or did you hear the word mercy coming up to the surface? And he comes home, and he comes to Eli. And Dad's made a decision. He's done what you folks are going to have to do. He deliberated. I'm a one-man jury. And I have before me life and death. He sentenced his kids to death. And as a judge, the sole judge in that house, he entered that decree, and then he became the executioner. He comes to Eli. Eli, who's been loyal. And what are Eli's words? Dad, take me with. Is that how he spoke? Or were those hands already on that child's neck? He's pleading. Dad, I haven't abandoned you. I'm choosing you. Take me with you. Dad's already entered the decree, death. He squeezes that child's neck so hard it breaks that hyoid bone. 3 to 5 minutes he had to hold that while Mira, oh my God, watched her second brother die. And then he had to chase her down. And she screams, no, no, no. What horror is going through her? Think of the horror in that house. Don't you know those other kids are crying? There's loud screaming. There's crying. There's agony. You know how kids are, particularly little ones. They don't know what's going on. Everybody's in distress. What do? They cry. And oh my gosh, the distress in that house. He grabs Mira. No, no, no. He looks at her in the eyes. Does he give her mercy? She makes one final appeal, trying to find the dad inside the beast that has his hands on her throat. Daddy, I love you. He's asking for mercy, and he hears that, and he crushes her neck. He chokes her, holds her till she is dead. Mercy. And then, why? All right, these kids can speak. They can say what happened. Why the 2 younger ones? Why Gabe? He's not going to talk to the police and Abigail. My gosh, she's just a year. No one else gets my dream. If I can't have these kids, no one will. Not Amber, not my parents, no one. This is mine. And if I'm on the run, by God, I'm burning this down. And he took their lives too. Gabe, that same hand was too big for that child's neck. That means he tried it. And so he took that belt of discipline, wrapped around their necks and pulled it tight. While those children died, including Abigail. She had just begun to taste life. And on the 6th of September, he gets stopped in Mississippi. You heard Marty Patterson, he's out there. He shows up to the scene. He's on the phone with law enforcement in Lexington County. And he tells his deputy, go over there, Tim Jones, who's sitting in the back of a squad car, go over there and ask him where his kids are. We know he's got 5 kids. Where are the kids? Marty Patterson, the cop, where are those 5 kids? The response comes back from that man, I don't have any kids. Marty Patterson's not having any of that. Go back over there and ask that man where his 5 kids are. And the response comes back from this man, Tim Jones Jr., I've got 3 kids. You know why it's 3? He disowned 2. Who wanted to go with Mama? Natan and Mira. Even in death, he had just dumped their bodies off that day That's what's in his heart. Is he the worst of the worst? Is this a man that merits mercy? Officers go to that scene. They find those bodies. And oh, they can say, well, he let them there. Well, after he confessed on the 8th about killing them, what did he have to lose? I see he's a good guy. Have mercy on him. He led them to the bags he put the bodies of his kids in. But what did they find there on the 9th? Find each child is placed in garbage bags and dumped out in the wilderness. Y'all saw that video clip during the daylight. Did you see how hard, if but for the smell, you could walk right by it? But there was something else about that clip. Did you hear the bug life? It's September. It's blistering hot. It's Alabama, a lot like South Carolina. They're in black bags. They're bugs. They're wild animals. That's where he left his kids. What does that tell you about this man? What does it tell you about a man who takes a precious family portrait of some of the most beautiful kids you'll ever see, who wanted nothing more than to be loved by their dad, by their mom? They had capacity to love both. They had the capacity to love one another. Look at them. They're not fighting and bickering over where they're going to sit. They're okay piling on top of one another. This is a beautiful family. That man couldn't see it. He took that picture and turned it into this. Black garbage bags with police placards on them. They no longer have names. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That man, the second life left in Natan's body, he no longer has the right to be called dad. No father does that to his children. He even said as much. But you remember his response? But on the other hand, they're already dead, so F it. Mercy. You heard so much about his family, so much where he came from. You heard Miss Gray get up here and talk about patterns. It's his DNA. It's his bad, violent past. It's his broken homes. Look, all of that's bad. But the suggestion is, my gosh, you mix all that together, of course he's going to be a murderer, even though the other kids haven't done that. Even though Dad, whose life was harder, didn't become a murderer. And Roberta, who sounds like she had the hardest life of all, she killed no one. She committed her mistakes. What is Junior's excuse? The only pattern you really see are choices. He's not the product of a bad DNA milkshake that sprung out Tim and you instantly have a murderer. This is a guy who had gifts. He had gifts. And he had 5 beautiful treasures. He never lacked for attention. His dad went to all his events. His dad went to his graduations. It's a pattern of choices, and he has chosen to be what he is today, which is a murderer. There is no excuse around it. There is no, it was just written in the stars. He chose it. He had risen above the mire, and that family was so proud of him for doing that. They helped him. He chose to be what he is. Pattern that you see is just choices. It's just choices. There were some good ones and a whole string of bad ones, and the worst led him right there in that chair. because that's who he is. And you heard from the family. I'm not going to pass any judgment on a family who's been through what they've been through. But they've said they've rallied around Tim. It's brought their family closer together. Maybe they're straining for a silver lining, folks. Maybe to cope. Maybe they have to absolutely embrace the notion that he is sick, that he's insane. How else does that family deal with that kind of pain? Do they just feel the heartache that someone they loved committed the most horrendous crime, so they hate him and mourn for their kids? What's left of the family? They're straining. Tim's sick. Timmy. He's no longer Tim, it's Timmy. They rally around him. And who absolutely indulges in that? Timmy. He's fine spending all day in a room. Y'all heard that as a child. You heard that from his Intel coworkers. He's okay being in a room, but he craves that attention. And he's got every family member now checking on Timmy. How you doing? Are you good? And for him, it's not his fault. And he can never admit it's his fault to his family. I'm sick. You had that phone call. And we played it, everybody's going, holy cow, what is this? I can't even hear it. And then you started hearing a little bit more, a little bit more. You play it in the back room, listen to it a little bit more. This phone call is just 3 months. 3 months. 2 days shy of 3 months of him murdering his 5 kids. 3 months. And you hear it, it's his dad, his Aunt Bernadine, and his cousin Blake. And they talk about divorce. And Dad, the divorce he went through, his marriage to Carolyn. Do you remember Aunt Bernadine? There's always somebody who hurts, and there's always an asshole. And the implication was Amber. Amber's the asshole. Remember hearing that? They all kind of laugh. And you remember his response? You got that right, Annie. And they talk about all the sickness in the family, and they're kind of laughing. Tim Jones going, yeah, they think I'm crazy in here. And they all kind of chuckle, and he goes, I can tell I'm with good company. Then you start getting down to the gist of it. He says, and they get quiet. He says, how do you respond to this? I feel like I went insane. Not that I am. I went insane. To go insane, there has to be a catalyst, and the catalyst was Natan. Dad, don't you remember? Here's the manipulation. Don't you remember how I always wanted my mom and she wasn't there? Justifying it to his dad. I saw that in Natan. I didn't want that for him. Was he caring for Natan? No. He says he snapped. He lost it. Because that night, Natan wanted to be with his mommy. Don't you know after mommy hung up or got shut off that phone, he was crying for mom. Mom, mom, mom. There was nowhere to hear, no one to hear except his siblings. What he faced was not punishment at that point. It was rage. He says, I snapped. I lost it. He tells you that. And then he makes the most incredible statement of all. So you see, you can put this one on Amber. Because if she had been home instead of next door, bopping the boy next door, none of this would have happened. 3 months after he has killed his kids. That's the words of this man. Do you think a life sentence is going to have a Tim Jones Jr. sitting in a cell thinking about what he did? Do you think that's what he does sitting in that room? He blames Cindy. She's in my head. He blames Natan. He blames Amber. But I'm insane, so whatever I did, I get a pass. And you heard in this phase, Timmy, Timmy, Timmy. Why was that? Why do you think you kept hearing Timmy? Miss Gray, who supposedly chronicled his whole life, but she seemed to leave out anything good. Don't you know he got all kinds of accolades in school? Did you hear a single one of those? You weren't supposed to. Her job was to find all the darkness in that family, expound upon it, and feed it to the experts who were trying to tell you there's something wrong with Timmy, including Dr. Maddox, who testified, oh, he's schizophrenic. I could tell you psychotic day one. You didn't hear much of an evaluation, did you? Nothing like what Frierson did, the multiple meetings trying to figure out who is this guy, does he really have a problem? You've been down that road. And so the plea seems to be, he's just a child. He's just a little child. Why are they doing that? So you will forget these kids. And the punishment is just send Timmy to his room. Make him think about what he's done. If you think that's the fit punishment for this case, do it. But folks, it is that man manipulating his family, their love and their pain, the pain he inflicted on them. He's using it. He's twisting it. He's gearing it and putting them on the stand. He's reaching for you. Feel bad, feel guilty for me. And you heard there was a pastor saying every man can have a purpose. He can have a purpose in life. Yeah. You can't give it to him. A jury can't give a man purpose. It is up to the individual to determine what purpose you're going to have. If he wants a purpose, he doesn't need to ask you. He doesn't need to put that on you. That's not really sincerely asking. That's a guilt trip. A dying man can have a purpose. But I'll tell you something, your verdict, your judgment, if you speak death, if you believe that is what fits this crime, this god-awful crime, maybe, as it's cast out across the media and it's headlines and it's on TV, maybe somebody else will hear. Maybe there's another dad. Maybe some other father will go, my God, that's me. Maybe he'll stop and get off that track that Tim Jones took. Maybe. It's your real purpose here, what punishment fits this crime? Now, you've heard about Tim Jones, but you've heard about the children too. Who they are. We needed to show you that, folks. They deserve us to present to you. They're not just kids. They're not just beautiful pictures. They're human beings. We had to turn to teachers because they knew so much about these kids. They were so invested in these kids. They loved them. We turned to Joy Laura, who knew the two younger ones, but she knew all of them. A woman who wept for these little kids that she cherished. And each of these kids, they all had their dreams, their unique gifts, their characteristics that they offered. Mira, full of life, full of love. And what did she love to do? She loved the mommy role that was missing. Taking care of Abigail, holding this small child who loved to be held. She loved being a big sister. She loved playing with Gabe and Abigail. You can't ask for a better daughter than this. This is a gift. Gift of love. This is love. And notice something. It's love among the siblings. How do these little children have that kind of love? Where does it come from? But it's there. And she had dreams. You heard how the school keeps track and how Mira was behind, but she got so much further ahead after she started working. And all the care these teachers gave her. My personal mission statement. I will be a fantastic daughter. That's number one. A fantastic daughter for that man. That is love. I will be a helpful sister. I will be a super student. Every day I will do my work and make good grades. When I grow up, I want to be a nurse. When I grow up. Book was closed on her by that man over there who called himself Daddy. And Eli, (7 years old when he died. Did you hear what his teachers said? His teachers who knew him. If there was a child in the room who didn't have a friend, Eli would seek them out. If they're working on a project and somebody was left out, she didn't have to tell somebody to go partner with that child. It was Eli. That was one of his gifts. And in that home, that brutal, ugly home, he reached out to his brother, Natan. It's here. I'm trying to read it. All About My Brother by Elias Jones. He draws two pictures. One boy saying, "Can I have it?" and the other one saying, "Yes." He's handing him a toy. I love Tan. He gives me things to play with. And he gives me stuff that I want. God, thank you for my brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You did wonderful, God, making my brother. I love you, God. That was within this family. With all the rage and hatred, they were taking care of one another. And Natan, left on his own, just wanted a hero, Woody. He loved Woody, and his dad knew it. Another way to inflict pain on this child. This is the night of the murder, folks. Natan graduates kindergarten. His dad's not there. He reassures himself by writing "good" on his diploma. I don't know who wrote this other one. Was it a sibling? It sure wasn't Dad. But good. In that kindergarten graduation, look how proud he is. He's in a cap and gown, and there is no one next to him. Because that man punish that child and refused to go. Gabriel, who always smiled, who always wanted to be like his big siblings. You heard Joy Laura? If they were involved in something he tried to get into, he couldn't wait to be older. And he loved the attention they gave. And Abigail, she had barely begun to taste life. This precious child, how do you put a belt around this child's neck and kill her? Look, she was loved. She knew it. All her siblings doted on her. And you're back to Dad. Dad, the man who murdered them. So who is he? What does he merit? What's the appropriate sentence? Well, I'm going to tell you, folks, if you want to know what he thought of Mira, you're going to need a look in bag 2, just like those officers did. You haven't seen these photos. You got a glimpse in the body recovery photos. But when you see these photos, you'll know the condition he left these children in. He left them for the wild. He left them to rot. He abandoned his children after he murdered them. You want to know what he thought of Mira? Open the bag. Do what Dave Lawrence and those officers did. Open the bag. You want to know what he did to bag 1, Elias. This child who's found with his Saks Gothis shirt, the power of 1. Look, open the bag. If you have any doubt about the appropriate sentence for that man, look in the bag. Gabriel, that little boy, is crammed in a bag. Look, if you have any doubt, what's appropriate? What fits this crime? And Abigail, why? Look in the bag. Look what he did to that little child. And please, folks, don't forget Natan, who's crammed in a bag with Ninja Turtle bedding, crammed in that bag. And you're going to notice something. Both Natan and Mira, no clothes. There's nothing sexual here. But it's his dad's hatred. Who is he going to chop up first, Natan? He was going to chop them up. It's not because he had a change of heart. You don't buy a saw that you use to cut sheetrock to cut bodies up with. That's why. And muriatic acid won't eat up a body, but you'll find that bottle's empty. But 2 people are stripped down. I'm going to tell you, it's to be destroyed. So he can destroy them. But you have any doubt, look in the bags. If you have any doubt about what is appropriate, what this monstrous crime deserves, if you have any inkling that there might be a doubt in your mind and your heart, just look in these bags. You'll find the answer.
Take a few minutes, go to the jury room, and justification, we'll be back out here. Thank you.